COVID lungs are a real deal.
Oh my God. Hey everyone, it's about that time for another Digifora happy hour podcast. Cheers, Justin.
Cheers.
These don't look like happy hour cups.
They're not. It's too early in the day for officially to be happy hour. So
yeah, I got coffee in mine. What are you drinking?
I am drinking herbal tea.
Hmm.
I ordered some a couple weeks ago. Not a lot of people know, like my great grandmother was English, and so tea time is a very real thing. And so we usually have tea in the house at all times. So
do you usually put like milk in your tea?
Sometimes I do, but not all the time. No. So
I can't with that.
Today
I don't put milk in my coffee either.
I don't either traditionally. Today is a chrysanthemum tea day.
Oh, fancy. I think I have a black coffee from Nicaragua that I picked up in the airport.
Nice.
In Phoenix, Arizona.
Very cool.
And my Abe Lincoln here. Wonderful.
Abe rocking the Ray-Bans.
We're rocking the Ray-Bans. Yep, as you should. Anywho, today we are going to be talking about secret shopping at churches specifically. Yep. This is something that Digifora offers. It's not one of our primary products, but it's definitely a product that has picked up some momentum and speed in the last few months. And so we thought, we should let people know this is something we offer and something we can do. And I think, gosh, who better to be qualified than two people that represent 4 of some of the top 10 largest churches in the country that also range in size. Size isn't the only thing that matters, but we've been around the block long enough to know what's important, what's not important, and why you should do this. So Justin, why should a church hire us to come and do a secret shopping site visit?
The number one reason I always think of is you don't see your mess once you've been looking at it for a long time. It's that, and I know there's like a psychology term for it with smell. Like after you've been in an environment that smells, you stop smelling it. And the chaos of your building, good, bad, or indifferent, you just stop seeing after a while. And so, having someone come in with a fresh set of eyes and an outside perspective to look at everything adds a ton of value. And, we've had some people say, "Ooh, it makes us super nervous to have you come and look at everything that we're doing," because it's kind of like you might find something bad. Yeah, it might be judgy, or you might find something bad. That's the point. Like, let us find it so that your guests aren't finding it. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
What about you? Why should people be doing secret shopping?
Yeah, I think the longer you have been at something, we like to refer to it as you don't work in the back. When you don't work in the back lot of Disney, it's easier to see that front end experience. And like you mentioned, churches get really used to every single weekend. So we don't just come at it from a mega church perspective where we're like, hey, we've worked at some large mega churches. You're not doing things excellently. I think we bring that unique perspective of you should always be remembering there's a first time visitor in the audience. And for whatever reason, churches tend to really forget that. It's like, who are we for? Are we for first time visitors? Or are we for our attenders and members who come every single weekend?
Yeah.
Also, we think about it from a digital perspective. Our new normal post, I don't want to use the word, but we all know this pandemic that happened. Our new normal is both digital and in-person experiences. So we take a look at that and how those interact. And we also take a look at systems of communication. Specifically, are you corresponding with people that fill out your connection card or whatever you're asking them to do or not asking them to do, because maybe you've forgotten at this point, or maybe you just don't even have any way to track new visitors or attenders. We take a look at all of that and just present you with what we've discovered, what we found, and how that could be a little better. I think what's also unique about our experience, Justin, is that we don't just come visit and leave. We'll spend like a half day with your communications team and just talk through systems, strategies, and processes to gain a better understanding of our experience from the weekend and into every day, Monday through Saturday, Monday through Friday, whatever your work hours are, what that looks like in the in-between, and how we can better present ourselves, not just on Sunday, because our communications team communicates during the 167, the 167 hours outside of the 1 hour we're at church. So that's also important to remember.
Yeah.
That answer was way too long.
That's all good. Like, but we take the fractional CMO hat even into these conversations, just to your point. Like, we all know secret shoppers in the church marketing space. There's literally dozens of them. And I know some churches that have hired them and paid a lot of money to have them do it. And they basically just get a ginormous PDF 2 weeks later and an invoice. And that's not how you and I approach stuff. That's not how Digifora approaches stuff. We really want to give you a product back that you're able to act upon. But also we want to work through it with you. We want to help find solutions with you. We want to be a part of making things better because
definitely
we love the local church. So the other thing that I struggle with a lot of churches that is good for the secret shopper process is just organization of experience. Man, many years ago, I worked for the Billy Graham Association, was actually on staff with them, and worked in customer service at the training center in the mountains of North Carolina. And they had one of those most beautiful properties ever. And it was well manicured. It was the experience from the time you drove through the gate all the way to the last experience that you had was all very intentional. And I think I have held on to that set of standards through the years. And so I always struggle when you and I visit churches and we show up and it's just not organized. Like, we did a secret shopper experience recently, and
no name, no shame. That's a
absolutely.
value on happy hour.
Absolutely. And part of it is like the sidewalk that we came up to get into the church building was covered in worms. And it was just one of those.
I didn't even notice that. You noticed that. I was so busy looking at all the happy families coming in and checking in their kids. And you were looking down at the worms.
I was like,
that's why we're a great team.
Man. That's right. And for me, it's like, but that was, Dr. Graham created this environment that he wanted you to be able to be undistracted and hear from God while you're on the property. And part of that is they had and they still do, just this dogged, like, tenacity to just make sure that the little details, you don't even think about them because you don't recognize them. And so I would, and there's a space that can be too much, and you can drive your church staff crazy thinking about that stuff. Yeah. That's a great place for volunteers.
Yeah. One of the perks of working at Saddleback was that we had a campus in Anaheim, which is the same city where Disneyland is. And so sometimes I would go work from there and then with my pass, go to Disneyland after work. And so it was cool to see how Disney does stuff with such excellence. Like even people cleaning leaves will start to do like water art with their broom on the ground around where they just cleaned up and create like a Disney character out of their water art from their broom. And so you definitely don't have to do that, but it just makes you think outside the box of like every position matters. Every volunteer you have on the weekend matters. I know, and every detail matters. So like Disney also does some surprise and delights where they'll just pop out and surprise somebody with front of the line passes to a ride. And I know we don't have rides at churches, but what if somebody popped out and just saw that your head was down walking into church and escorted you to like some wonderful seats just for you? Like that's something that I love. And Andy Stanley said it best when he said, do for one what you wish you could do for many.
Absolutely.
Not everyone's going to have that experience, but create an experience that's going to last forever in at least one person's mind each weekend. And as the church, we have every weekend to create those opportunities, which is great. I had a great idea at Saddleback that they never used because, you know, a lot of my ideas were too innovative and ahead of their time. But what I thought, like churches that own their parking lots, how easy would it be to paint in the spaces, in like every other space, just words of encouragement? Like, cool. You are here for a reason today. You have a purpose. You are loved. Just printed at the end of the parking space. So when they pull in, they walk out and they see, I pulled into the You Are Loved space. Like, I needed that today. You guys can take that. That's a freebie for listening to the Digifora podcast and listening to Justin and I banter back and forth.
Right.
But just every little detail matters. And so what are things like that you could be doing? We try to take a look at what you're doing well, what you are doing okay, and what could definitely be better and what's broken.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, we hope that people watch this and reach out and start the conversation for us to do a secret shopper experience with them. And if you're worried about like, oh my gosh, we have so much we need to work on before we have you, I would argue against that. It's never going to be perfect. You know, and I would imagine even, anyways, that's just, don't let that bog you down. There is no such thing as perfection. And maybe we could step in, observe for a weekend, and then offer some suggestions that shorten the life cycle or the execution cycle on some of those things. And so I know for me, the same one that I was speaking of momentarily ago with the worms on the sidewalk, like they had a fantastic baptism experience in the middle of the service, and
that was a well-oiled machine for sure.
That was a fantastically well-oiled machine because they did like something like 30 baptisms in like a 7-minute period, and they all felt very intentional and they weren't rushed, and it was beautiful. But you know, I think part of what I would also encourage church communicators and marketers to do is, Sunday is the biggest day of the week for you, but take the opportunity to go and experience other churches. I know for me, I'm not an emotional guy. I'm not prone to emotions, but like sitting and watching the 30 something people get baptized, like I was just proud of the capital C church. Yeah. It was just like
the heartstrings.
Yeah. This is why we do what we do. And so for you as marketers, like, find those times to remind yourself, you know, hey, we've baptized this amount of people. We've had this many children in our children's ministry. Whatever those things are that keep you motivated, find those and track them. And when you're having those hard days, pull out your file that says this is why we do what we do. And then also go visit other churches. Like, go see what they're doing. I guarantee you that, love them or hate them, whoever you visit, you'll walk away like, man, we really do some good stuff at our church.
Yeah, definitely. Justin, what's probably like one of the most cringeworthy things you've noticed in a secret shopper experience? Have you had like a cringeworthy moment where you're like, oh, this makes me embarrassed to be part of the Big C church?
I am a big, I'll say it a different way. I'll just be black and white. I hate it when people like try too hard, when your church may not have the skill set to do what your idol church is doing, but you still just keep trying to do it. And there's a place where you should just be like, hey, we can't do that yet. That's our vision. We're going to come back a tier or step it down, and we're just going to do it with excellence at the level that we can. Yeah. And I mean, I've sat through some services where I'm like, ooh, it would have been so much better if you didn't have like the off-key guitar solo for 90 seconds. Like, it's just like, oh my God, like, just, it's not good. Like, just stop. So yes, I've experienced
worship. Is this a sad concert in the local bar? I don't know. I can't tell at this moment.
Exactly.
For me, I can't think of a cringe-worthy moment other than like having all the right things in place, like a connection card, and just never telling people what to do with it or even to just fill it out. That's such a basic thing that we forget, is just because it's there doesn't mean don't assume people know what you want them to do with it. People go where you tell them to go. So if you tell them to fill out a card, fill it out. Just you better make sure you have a process for follow-up if you're going to ask them to fill out a card. So it's cringeworthy when you have nice things like that, but you don't utilize them properly.
That's correct.
That's cringeworthy.
Very much so. And I think to your point, I think we as church marketers and church communicators think that everyone else is tired of hearing what we're talking about because we're tired of talking about it. And it's simply not true. Like it is simply not true. And so you have to stay excited about talking about the Mother's Day event for the 74th time, because numbers say now that people are going to church 1.5 times a month. So even though the room is full again this weekend, they've not heard what you've said yet.
Absolutely. And that reinforces sharing that content from the Sunday throughout the week. Let's not assume people came that Sunday or that they went back and watched it online because they're so disciplined. Most church staff aren't disciplined enough to sit and listen to a whole message themselves. So to expect that attenders or the average person who comes once a month did, keep reinforcing that in your channels throughout the week. Because also you're fighting algorithms that doesn't guarantee everyone following your channels is going to see it. Yep.
And you also are assuming that just because I'm sitting there, I'm listening. If this thing's in my hand, I'm probably not. I don't hear 90% of what you're saying. And so that's the other thing you're up against is just creative communication wins the day. And so you got to do something that makes me put this thing down. Never mind. I was about to talk about the product that you and I saw yesterday, but that would rage into a bad conversation. So, churches should start having little boxes that everybody puts their phones in.
It could be a lunchbox. That was basically the ascent of this product that cost a lot of money and had a lot of urgency, but is not available until 2023.
Yeah, so. And it was not for churches, just FYI. But it was just like, I don't doubt somewhere in the United States there is a church that has a basket where they're like, please put your phones in the basket before you come in.
Yeah, definitely.
Guarantee it. It's probably somewhere near here where I live in Georgia.
I mean, it's not my parents' church and they only have about 50. So if they're not doing it, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, anything else we need to cover on the secret shopper front? Why you should do it? Why you should have us? No one will recognize us either if we come to your church. We'll blend in. That's guaranteed.
Well,
maybe not Justin. Just kidding.
There might be a few churches we might stick out with, but
we might stick out if we both come in with denim jackets.
Digifora dress code.
Oh my gosh.
But it is. I just think more people should take advantage of it, and even for us, there's a price tag connected to it. But if you really are interested in doing it, and your church is in a season where financially you don't know that you can, still reach out to us. We're willing to have a conversation with you because we so care for the capital C church and your church to grow. We'll do our best to try to find a path for you, because it is not to point out your mistakes. It's to point out what we collectively can do better to reach more people. And it's the saying that I say all the darn time. This is another one of those things where it is too important for us not to get right.
Yeah. And I think the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So maybe if your church has kind of hit a wall or is a little stagnant, that would be a good opportunity to call us. But also, like you mentioned, we should always be striving to do things better because we represent the kingdom of heaven, right. And we represent God, Jesus, our Lord and Savior. We should be always striving for excellence for that reason alone. Especially, it's harder to see ROI in this setting when you're not selling a tangible product that you can link to and see how many sales you drove there. You're hoping to get people onto your campus and hoping that they hear the word and receive it. Some churches don't even give that opportunity to receive Christ in their heart at the end of their service. I know we do at Bayside, and I'm one of those peekers that has to look and see who raises their hand just because that fills my soul. So I'll peek to fill my soul anytime.
Absolutely.
So great. Well, if people wanted to get a hold of us to do this, what would be the best way?
Yeah, just go to the website, and then there are buttons all over our homepage, so digifora.com, and it's book a call or contact us. Just click that, fill out the form,
But Secret
and
Shopper.
and put Secret Shopper as the topic, and
We'll know
get
what you
back to
mean.
We'll
If
know
you
what's
tell
up.
them that you saw this episode on Happy Hour, you may even consider like a 10% discount.
Absolutely. We'll do a 10% discount if you tell us you saw the podcast, also known as the video, on YouTube. So
Yeah, Happy Hour podcast.
Yeah, but no,
Cool.
again, churches should do it. Join them. Take us up on the offer. Let us put our 30 plus years of experience to work for you.
Help us help you.
That's right. Darn right.
Well, cheers to that.
Cheers. Good
we
happy
hope
hour.
You guys had a wonderful time with us on this happy hour episode, and we will see you next time.